We need some Cosmo wipe here. Okay, so let's do it a little bit more conversational, and eventually this is important to have the Bali-based community and the international community, and to have that merge eventually after the merge. So we are S21. Our name stands for Satoshi 21 million digital supply, and we are the fan of that tech behind, and we've been organizing crypto and blockchain-related seminars with the founders the last 2 years in Bali. So we have one presentation event with founders and C-levels, and one networking event. And today we have two special guests. Mark Feldman, we are going to start with the opening of Mark Feldman's talk. He is an advisor in Everscale, who has a big presence in Bali, and they're launching their decentralized exchange now, and they have the investment capital, and he's going to share the past and the present and the future of investment, Web3 and traditional investment. Thank you.
Hi, guys. Thank you for inviting me here. Great to be here. I don't know where to start, but I'll start from, I don't know, maybe a start of my career. So I've been in investment banking and corporate finance for over 30 years, starting as a junior trader on the option desk at one of the top investment banks in New York. Going to vice president, launching our own investment group, selling it in early 2000, was about $5 billion under management, doing a lot of very interesting transactions, both on venture, on various instruments, bringing companies to the public markets, from maybe no names you know. We actually gave first money to Starbucks Coffee to buy the coffee houses in California in the early 90s, and then we did a private, and then we did a public offering with Alex Brown. We gave money to today's largest waste management company, Allied Waste Industries. It's now been renamed. Many interesting transactions. Besides that, I started in venture in 1993, 1994, being one of the first members of New York Venture Association. Investing in the beginnings of internet, biotechnology, well, basically interesting projects across the board. Some great exits, some bad exits, a lot of great stories to tell. I don't know, maybe I should tell like a story or two I think you would love. Okay, so I'll give you one great story, having nothing to do with exits and entries, but entry definitely. So as I said, I was a junior trader on the option desk. Actually, gentleman that I worked under, Michael Friedman, his team created options as a financial instrument. So he was an incredible man to learn from, and quickly grown in a few years to a vice president, managing part of the desk. And then a company by the name of Drexel Burnham Lambert, if anybody knows or maybe remembers or heard stories, a group that created junk bonds as a financial instruments. Because of junk bonds, fell apart. And the group from there came to Oppenheimer Company, which I worked for. And they proposed to do two things. Actually, one thing was the Starbucks coffee, to give money. And I said, well, my choice probably the new firm that we built. So I didn't give the money, but they did. And the second thing, we were to open our own investment group. And we were about, I don't know, 6-7 months into the process. And as you know, this is a licensed work, and so when we filed documents, obviously Oppenheimer finds out about it, and they fired everybody, including myself. And I said to the guys, I said, you know what, we have 3 months to opening, what do I do? And they said, we think you're going to be a great salesman. why don't you go learn sales? I said, interesting. Who? So they said, we have a guy that just opened his own investment group on Long Island. He's the best of the best. Go learn from him. So for 3 months, I worked at a company called Stratton Oakmont for a gentleman by the name of Jordan Belford. Okay, the result of it was 4 years later, I was head of retail and institutional sales, at the end managing over 500 brokers. And everything the movie was showed was absolute true. Anyway, so there were a lot of ups and downs. We did some incredible deals on Wall Street. Actually, another deal that I wasn't in the movie, but our team was purchase of RGR and Nabisco by Kohlenberg, Kravitz, and Roberts, and then there was a book called Barbarians in the Gate, and there was a movie. I'm not so proud to say we were involved because the whole Wall Street was involved in this transaction. I don't think there was an investment group or legal firm that was not involved, and so that was another interesting one. Talking about maybe some interesting downs, I invested, it's an interesting story, in a company called Bullseye Art. So I don't know if anybody remembers something called Flash technology. So Flash was a first technology to do cartoons on internet. And these guys did #1 porno cartoon in the world. Actually, it was a #1 cartoon in the world in Flash technology, but it was porno. And they actually were awarded, they were nominated for several awards for the work because the work was truly incredible. And in late 90s, coming into the crash of IT crash of 2001, I had like 25% of the company, and this group, which was about to go public, I don't even remember the name or exactly what they did, offered to buy us out. And the guys, the young guy whose house I came to lived in Soho. He had I think it was like a 1,000 square meter loft. And he greeted us. The guy was like 30 years old, had 2 huge black dogs. And that should have been a signal. But if anybody knows what a collar is, when you are going public, an investment firm can offer you a loan against the stock of the company that will go public. Right. So he borrowed a lot of money, bought the loft, the dogs, and then came the crash. And our evaluation was about $300 million based on the price of the stock that was supposed to be going public. And of course, it turned to 0. So a lot of interesting stories to tell. I've been focused probably for the past 20 years on M&A, doing consulting M&A transaction, and that's what Standard Capital Group does. We also have a fund that invests in distressed private equity, that does distressed private equity investments. It's a captive fund. We do, I think, incredibly well. But it's a very, very interesting experience because we are absolutely industry, geography agnostic. I think we've done transactions probably in almost every industry that is out there. We just know how to properly structure, how to properly go after the assets, how to restructure, bringing always somebody who is a strategic investor or strategic partner into these deals, and have had a great success. I came to crypto in 2017. I actually collect art. I've been collecting art since I was a kid. There's actually another great story to tell about art. It's also a losing story, but it's a great story. I actually graduated as an architect. My first degree was in architecture, then MBA, and so on. But when I was in college, I lived in East Village. And probably not many people know what that is, but it's basically in the early 80s. There was a complete dump drug city in part of New York. And I lived on the best corner. I think I've seen everything from shootings to, dead people lying around. But in any case, So knowing that I collect art, one of the gentlemen came to me and he said, listen, there's a guy, he is a, he takes drugs, he shoots, but he's an incredible, we think he's an incredible painter. You should go see his work. When he needs a dose, you can buy a painting for $100. And I said, cool, take me. So I went there, there was this guy, there was this painting, I don't know, a meter by 50, with skeletons, some writings on it, and so on and so on. And I bought the painting for, I think, $150. And so the painting hung in my room until I graduated college, in one room, the second room. And then that summer, I left to Italy to see my girlfriend, and I thought that I would stay for, I don't know, a month. I stayed for 6 months. And of course, they didn't throw me out, but they basically put my clothes and stuff somewhere else. And the painting, of course, when I got there, was never there. Gentleman's name was Jean-Michel Basquiat. If anybody knows who the guy is, he became famous because he was killed by police in the metro station. And then his paintings now, I think this one would sell somewhere about $5-6 million. So anyway, give you another story. Good one. And then we'll go to crypto. Crypto is boring. Kidding. Just kidding. So another great story is Starbucks, actually Starbucks coffee. As I said, my partners gave Howard Schultz his money to buy. They were friends for many years, and he was the barrister at his at this coffee shop, and then he bought out the owner, first one, second one, and then he decided to buy a chain in California. There were, I think Starbucks had about 10 coffee shops, and that's where $1 million went. By the way, the first coffee shop in New York, Starbucks Coffee, opened downstairs of our building on 17 Broadway. And Howard Schultz was a very often visitor of our office, and actually my partners were in his first book that he wrote. And as I said, we co-underwrote the initial public offering of Starbucks Coffee. And I, as a managing director at that time, received, I do remember exactly, 20,000 shares at $20 a share, which I held for a year or something, or maybe a little bit more. Sold it, made money. Anybody guesses how much it's worth today? 400,000. No, total 400,000 at an initial public offering today. 200 million. Okay, anyway, let's get to crypto. Let's get to the exciting things. So, as I said, I collect art since I was a kid. Different art, different collections in different places that I lived, and definitely will be collecting art here in Bali, and we're already starting. And friends of mine who knew that I am a collector, and I've been a member of various museums, supporting various museums, came to me and said, we know what you do. We know how well people know you in the art world. We have a project which is digital art on blockchain. So there was no NFT at that time. Why don't you come join and lead the project, bringing it to the word to the world? And I did. I think in early 2018, I presented the project at a first digital art conference at Christie's in London, and got a lot of publicity on it. And then we listed the project in App Store, and App Store refused for us to take crypto as payments, and we wanted to take Ethereum as payments, and the project was frozen. During the same time, I think also late 2017, at one of the conferences, we met Pavel Durov of Telegram, and he had his project Telegram Open Network. And we loved the project so much that we went out to fund Pavel. As a group, we raised over $300 million So we were the largest fundraiser for the project. And considering the commitment we did for our money, our investors' money, and understanding the potential, I mean, you have at that time 250 million. By the time they were supposed to launch, he was expected to have 400 million, and he did. And obviously, it's something that we said, gotta capitalize on this. And we put up our own money. We took money from the investor, and created a company called Tone Labs. So we were actually the only ones allowed to use Tone in our name. We were allowed to use Tone in the projects that we did. And by the time of the launch in the fall of 19, we had over 50 developers in the team and developed a lot of very interesting projects for the product. Of course, we were sitting counting the big money once the launch would take place. Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen. As you know, Pavel Durov dropped the project and returned the money in part, all or more, to its investors. But we were not the only one that were developing things for Telegram, and there were many other companies that were developing products. And so in late April of 2020, we gathered a group of initial members. There were 23 of them. Actually, one of the groups broke off from us and created what is called Tone Foundation. People may have heard of it. And we launched what was called Free Tone on May 9th, 2020. We actually launched mainnet on Pavel Durov's code. So it was called Free Tone due to various issues and questions from institutional players regarding the Telegram and the name and so on. We decided to rebrand. Now it's called Everscale Network. So we are almost 2.5 years live. We created a lot of unique, a lot of very interesting products. By the way, we never sold a single token. So the idea and the reason why we broke off was the guys that created Tone Foundation was that we saw the experience of Durov, and that we definitely wanted to take a path that would not would secure us in some way from Security and Exchange Commission to go after. And so we never sold a token. All the tokens were given out. They were given out to initial members. They were given out to validators, use cases, integrations, contests, grants, and so on and so on. And they continue being given out. We do have a listed token, but it was listed by the Korean community, one of the largest communities in the system. They listed it in late 2020. We're now trade on 16 exchanges, as well as here in Indonesia. We're listed on Indosat, I think, about a month ago. Because like other blockchains that did ICOs and raised significant capital, which most of them used for financing, marketing, their marketing strategies for pushing the token. We didn't have that money, so we invested everything into the technology, and we think we created some of the best technology in the market, and that's what we spent the last 2 years. As you know, the trilemma named by Vitalik Buterin, saying that not a single blockchain sold the trilemma. We did. So we are more secure than Bitcoin. We are fully decentralized. Not a single group owns more than the community. We now have 220 validators, which is down a little bit. We had close to 400 validators, but we've actually moved from onto the new language, onto Rust, and some of that. Some of those groups fell off, but we are confident that in a short time we will regain those validators. As I said, we created a lot of unique product. We created what is now to become the largest bridge, uniting 13 blockchains. 2 are in the process of integration. We, as I said, started talking about the DEX. We actually launching the test launch, doing the test launch, production test launch today. It's a DEX with an order book. It's a unique DEX because it's on Everscale. So just to give a couple of important points, in 2.5 years, Everscale never went down. We took it down once for technical purposes to, not going to get into details. It was never broken. Not a single penny was ever stolen. We've actually hired people to break Everscale, and they were unable to do so. We did on a single node a test, a speed test, and reached speeds of 52,500 transactions per second. And because of what is called dynamic sharding, that we are, in reality, many people are saying, yeah, dynamic sharding, but nobody, the closest, I think, competitor in that is Near, and I think they're about a year and a half away, or maybe even more. Allows for, depending on the number of validators validating the system, as it expands, the speed will continue to expand as well. These are benefits that are brought to the DEX that we're launching. As I said, it's a DEX with an order book. I think that the only one famous DEX with an order book out there is on Solana, but it's on Solana, and Solana, I can say a lot of things about Solana. So come and trade. Anyway, so we're a community that created a lot of products for people to work on, a lot of unique products. So we welcome to join our community. By the way, something needs to be mentioned about adoption. We are focused. We have a group. One of the main developers is a company called Broxus, which is focused on creation of CBDCs for different countries. We think that the next big adoption and the next big move in crypto is actually going to be in CBDCs, due to the fact that just counting 3 countries where we are one already created and is being launched. It's actually already was announced in the news in Abu Dhabi. Second one is Philippines, was also in the news, also announced. Third one was not announced in the news, but I can talk about it, is here in Indonesia. So if you count the number of people, we're talking about over 400 million people that now have an ability to will have an ability to transfer funds without using banking products. And we think that this is just the beginning. The group is talking to, I think in various stages, was about another 13 countries. We think that next big adoption on Everscale will come from CBDCs. We create, one more. We actually, in partnership with Docker, I don't know if people are familiar with the storage. We created decentralized storage, so decentralized GitHub, together with Docker, and about to launch it this month. As you know, Docker has 12.5, I think something like 12.5 million developers in the system. So another huge adoption for the network. The future. I think that we're in, I've been through many, ups and downs of, equity and debt markets, and seen a lot of flash out of bad companies, of bad stories, and strong survive. But the markets always go like this, and they will go like this, I don't know what can change. Hopefully not some global war. And so I think that in terms of the adoption and global adoption of blockchain, we stand just at the very, very beginnings. And I think this is an incredible opportunity. If you look at what could be the downside could be a global war. I think that there's no global war. I think that, I think it's a great time to enter projects. You have to be selective. You have to do a lot more homework than maybe you did before. I think that when people, when the markets, everything was going up, people were like jumping, buying, and so on and so on. It is difficult to raise money now for projects. But I think the selected few will, I think there's always money for a good project. So I think focus is recommendation, and go forward and go achieve your goals. Thank you.
I'm just going to have a follow-up once we find you here. So you mentioned a little bit of the market evaluation when companies going to IPOs and everything. Like, well, how do you see can you share a little bit more of your experience from S1s to white papers, and now even that's hard to fundraise for crypto projects. So a lot changed. How do you see the success indicators? What actually changed, and how that creates a different crowdsourcing, crowdfunding dynamic?
I think you need to look for a niche in the market, number one. Number two, you need to solve people problems. What problem does your project solve? Okay, and this is really important. If your project solves a problem that exists in the world, okay, then you have a great success, potentially great success. There are a lot of people doing it like copycats. Look at the real world. I always say to people, look at the real world projects and what can be changed in real world projects that you can deliver in blockchain and Web3 in crypto. Don't piggyback. Don't do another, I don't know, art NFT. We focus on things that have not been developed by anyone. Not doing another, I don't know, at least myself. Yeah, we did a great bridge, but again, people saying, oh, we're doing this. You can not only transfer your tokens, but you can transfer information. You can transfer, I don't know, NFTs through this bridge. And they're like, okay, but yes, it's good, but what are you changing? Focus on changing. Of course, we want to focus on changing the world, but focus on adoption of real-world businesses to Web3. As a businessman, I'm looking at Bali, and in Bali, I'm finding, things that are missing here. And I'm not, I'm going to put Web3 or blockchain to the side, but it's kind of like, okay, what are we missing? Okay, what are we missing that people are now, because this huge population of developers or people that are actually making money working on a distance, what do they need here? And we're also focusing on those solutions. I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that your project needs to be unique in this market space in order to raise real funding.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the talk. In the beginning, I had a lot of questions, but now there's more people here, so I'm not going to take up the mic for a while. But you did mention that you were working in the financial sector back when the dot-com bubble burst, which was like a huge time for technology. And with this NFT bubble, and like with crypto, how big how mainstream it got in this past bull market. I tell people all the time that haven't heard about Web3, that this is more or less like the dot-com bubble. It's like a lot of people got into it.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious to maybe share some like deeper resemblances or differences that you feel from being in the roots and on the ground, both during the dot-com bubble and now. Like, what do you think is the same? What do you think is different? And
I think it's the same because I remember internet when there was no World Wide Web, okay, and so we stand at that same sort of cross where I think that bridges that are being created will unite all the blockchains, and the user will never notice on what blockchain they are. It will be worldwide blockchain. Which will unite all the blockchains. Is this the last bubble that's been burst? Definitely not. So, I mean, there's been a lot of bubbles, and we saw a real estate bubble, we saw a dot-com bubble, we saw a bubble in even in in biotechnology sector. So there will be, as I said, there will be a lot of ups and downs. What was the same? I think over expectations, over bought, little knowledge of people. I think that's also burst of the bubble. People are like, oh, crypto, everybody making like 1,000%. Here's the money. Okay, not even understanding where they're throwing the money. Same thing. I don't even know what differences. Same thing.
I remember the dot-com bust, and I think there's no time like the first time for something like that. That was pretty fun.
We never learn. You understand that?
No.
We don't learn.
Yeah. So you talked about giving tokens away in this project, and I think I understood that you know there's kind of thinking about regulatory issues behind that. So can you talk a bit more about how regulatory considerations have factored into how you get involved in projects, whether it's through funding or you know, other ways that you get involved? How much of a problem is that, both from the investor side and from the user side, right? So if a project involves users that buy a token, and suddenly it's a security, and that becomes an issue.
We just write everywhere, no U.S. citizen allowed.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Is there an answer?
It's sadly yes.
We do not know if U.S. citizens are buying, so that's our answer.
Next.
So I'm curious because you just said no U.S. citizens allowed, but
by the way, I'm a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, that's like, are you not a U.S. citizen? Like,
I am.
But where are you from? Because like I hear some type of a subtle
born
accent.
in Ukraine, raised in New York, last 15 years in Moscow. So I think I actually gained a Russian accent. So.
Yeah. Okay, great. And kind of going back to traditional financing versus crypto, right? Because you did work in both sectors, right? And you did probably fundraise in both sectors, and you did now you're building a trading platform in both sectors. And now institutional money is obviously coming. Now until now, more or less. A lot of the fundraising that has been done with people like protocols or blockchains or projects fund through crypto projects. Now that institutional money is coming in, how do you think this will affect the fundraising aspect of projects and maybe even the trading aspect of projects? Because now it's hard to move the Bitcoin price, and a lot of people are going into smaller caps. So that's a game that I'm not necessarily heavily interested in. I'm more interested in the actual fundraising for projects themselves. But the institutional money will affect the market in a way that it hasn't been affected before, as far as the cycles and as far as the ups and downs of the market. How do you see this, maybe?
No, if you look at the latest chart, and I don't know, for the past year and a half, I mean, the Bitcoin and Ethereum has been mirroring the S&P 500. So this is something that never happened before. So you have to understand that this is now an instrument that is used by institutions to do whatever, to invest, to hedge, and the reflection of economic downturns, especially U.S. economic downturns, certainly affects the prices of cryptocurrency. I mean, even yesterday, the FRS meeting, we saw everything went down, and then today people are, Goldman Morgan came out, said, oh, this is maybe we're close to the ending, and now the market rally is back. And again, if you look at the charts, they're almost mirroring each other. In terms of the institutions, well, I mean, it doesn't really differ from, everybody has their own risk level, their own point of entry, whether it's, pre-seed, seed, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, pre-public, public, and so on and so on. So there are funds that actually focus on various stages of investment, and they are, have their own criterias of investment. And in reality, it hasn't changed in any way from how it was before in I don't know, in .com era or any other investment. So evaluation processes are more or less the same. You invest in the team, you invest in technology, you invest in the development, future development strategy, marketing, and so all the same aspects. How is it affecting? I mean, of course, in a positive way. It's adoption. Institutions bring their clients, and so on and so on and so on. But again, we are quite in the early stages of this investment cycle. So I mean to say so that I think that pray to God nothing happens, serious between Russia and Ukraine. I mean, it's pretty serious now, but there are some potentially terrible consequences to the globe if anything happens further. So, we are sort of neutral now, but carefully neutral when looking at investments.
Okay.
And value. Of course, looking at value.
And you said great answer, but you said it's good that institutional money is coming, and a lot of the crypto people don't necessarily agree with that because it kind of takes off from their potential gain of making money, because like until now crypto has more or less been built by the people for the people. Now that institutional money is coming, it's there's a lot more investment opportunities, but like you said,
there's a lot more money now.
Yeah, there's a lot more money now, but because it follows the old patterns or whatever, there's not so many room for volatility and gains and whatever.
But how do you change that? I mean, it's a globe, it's a progress. I mean.
Yeah, so it's basically the expansion of yeah, exactly. It's basically the expansion of old money expanding into this new ecosystem. Like, it's not our game anymore. It's more or less like we're playing on their turf.
It's your game to create unique products. It's your game.
Okay, deal.
Okay, so speaking of which, the original .com bubble, it spurred a lot of infrastructure creation, right? So telecoms went out and built big fat digital pipes and lost their shirts on them, but because those things were in the ground, we were able to build Web2 and Zoom and all that stuff, right? And so those things eventually paid off. So now here we are with our own bubble, right? So what's the fat pipe this time around? What are the things that are analogous to those that infrastructure that we built that we couldn't actually use at the time?
What's the fat pipe? Good one. Listen, for instance, we built something. People are talking about Web3. We built something that we call Web3. So inside of a wallet, if you have time to download, it's called Surf Wallet. On Everscale, and when you go inside of the Surf Wallet, you have what we call an App Store. So all the use cases through what is called debot are in your App Store. So all the integrations that have been done so far, I think not maybe all of them have integrated inside of debot, but basically when you go inside of your wallet in the App Store, you press the button, and you are actually on the blockchain page of one or another case. So you're actually no longer on the internet. Yes, you have to use Wi-Fi or mobile or satellite to connect, but no longer on the web. So I think, what is the future pipe? Good question. Do you mean what the future? What's the next big move?
Well,
or what's your?
It was that infrastructure that we built that really drove the. It was because it was available, we were able to build those really data-intensive applications, like the things that enabled us to come here and work as digital nomads, right? Like the remote presence type stuff, right? So, a lot of people are throwing a lot of money around right now and just sort of building everything that they can think of, right? But there must be some people at your level who are looking at all this stuff and trying to identify that small subset of things that are really going to be durable, that are going to sort of power the next wave.
Well, we think CBDC is the next big thing, truly big thing, because it's talking to big corporates around the globe, they have big issues transferring big amounts of funds cross-border, like payments. We're talking about problems with energy, with coal, with gas, oil. These people face real problems on transferring bank-to-bank serious capital. And this is going to change with CBDCs. We're actually planning to launch on our DEX CBDCs, and we're in talks with several central banks. It'll probably be a leg from Everscale, but we're talking to central banks that are ready to support stable coin supported by a group of central banks to provide the swap between the CBDCs, different CBDCs. So, and the adoption of this, is going to change the banking system and will change the way people make payments today. I think it's huge.
Do you think the central banks will tolerate significant competition from sort of other non-governmental groups who want to perform the same service?
Well, I mean, you can already perform the same services using Bitcoin or any other.
For now.
Well, I think this is the unstoppable process. Truly unstoppable process. No, I think that U.S. monetary system truly stands at a big risk. I think that I think it was like 2017. I read the CIA report or a write-out from CIA report, which said that if any large social network decides to launch their own cryptocurrency, it is a threat to U.S. monetary system, and it is a threat. And there's nothing they can do anymore. They will fight. They will definitely fight. But the world is changing.
Okay, this is a very tricky point, and we can discuss it from here on during the dinner, I think, when we are not recording. But I want to go back to the governance and the executive level of all these projects, because you are familiar with the traditional way of doing business, and Everscale is a DAO. And do you think that promise of cryptocurrencies and blockchain to create a flat society in terms of management of all these funds and also being effective in terms of delivering what the community expects, do you think it is being delivered, or how would you compare it, the actual DAO system that is now starting to be more widespread compared to traditional organizational, top-down organizational level in terms of effectivity and in terms of delivering what it promises?
Well, I think that I think that's something that whether we want it or not, but there's going to be some united standards that everybody's at one point is going to get together and create. These standards will, again, we want this free world, but free world still needs some rules. And I think that the regulation of DAO, internal inside of decentralized system will be created. Same way that people are creating the standards for transferring of funds, standards for NFTs, global standards. There will be global standards in order for all this. Bridges help, but bridges actually slow down some of the processes. You need to do some reps and so on and so on. I think that the DAO system creating a freedom that there was never before. By the way, I don't know if you know, I forgot which one of the states in the United States actually. Yeah, Wyoming, has DAO as a legal system of creation of a company. And I think that's going to be widespread. So I think that I don't know, I do not know yet any other country that has actually, had made this. But I think that they put up a very good beginnings for such. I think that we're going to see much more regulation. I think that SEC is going to realize at one point that you can't fight anymore. Everybody was hoping that with the new chairman, things would be better, but they gotten a lot more worse because he understood the business from its core, blockchain from its core and crypto. But I think they're going to realize at one point that they need to soften their position and help together with the blockchain community to create some instead of doing something US, to create some global standards. And I think that global blockchain community will go for that. So it'll be some, negotiated level of transparency. I mean, the blockchain is about transparency. So again, I think that we also stand in front of serious regulatory changes. I think that the regulatory changes are going to be positive, even though we're seeing a lot of issues due to various defaults. But I think it's also the same learning curve that people will, learn what not to do, maybe, and maybe we'll make mistakes again in 20 years.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.